this before. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it'll work. I will ask him questions, and he will talk about whatever he wants to, regardless of my question. So it'll be highly entertaining. And we will do this for about 30 minutes, and then we'll open it up for questions to all of you. So to get started, I would say everybody here knows you as a musician, and everybody all over the place knows you as a musician. You just had your 17th album come out. You play in arenas all over the place. And most people don't know that in addition to being an incredibly talented musician, you are a highly accomplished visual. You have been ever since you graduated from Eastern Carolina University in Greenville in 2000 with a BFA in studio art. Now, the question is, were you talked into going into the band with your brother in 2000 when you founded it instead of having an art career?
Yeah, okay. Well, in 2000, when I left ECU, I went back to the Charlotte area, to Concord, North Carolina, and opened a gallery. About a year and a half after that, kind of in between time after graduation. During that, I was applying to University of Florida in Gainesville to go to graduate school there to focus on figurative painting. And I was told by a professor that I had, Leland Wallen was his name, to go to Florida and then move to New York and paint. And that my music was good, but that I was born to paint, and I needed to move to New York and to live minimum there a year, but 3 years would really give me a good idea of what I was made of in New York. I deferred my acceptance to University of Florida, then tried to defer again, and as the gallery that I was just talking about, as it sort of petered out, and touring started to take over my life, and I attempted to defer graduate school one more time. The university there said, look, it sounds like you're going to be a musician. You're busy. Why don't you call us if you ever decide to go to graduate school and we'll talk. That moment, there was also a booking at Merle Fest that we had. That I don't know if symbolically I hinged my decision on that and said, well, if we get into Merle Fest in 2004, then I won't follow visual art. If we don't, I'm going to quit the band and give myself to visual art only, or at least primarily. And so when we got accepted to Merle Fest, we went and played it. I said, okay, I'm going to devote my time to touring and making music. But I had been warned of the dangers of not making art. Like, I guess there was a percentage of how many art students go on to work other jobs and don't continue to make art. That didn't make sense to me. I wanted to I don't know, own up or let's see what I was saying. I wanted to maintain and honor the obligation that I had to create things visually. So I sort of declared that I would always have a painting studio, no matter where I lived. So when my wife and I got married in 2003, that was after an 8-month break, which is the only break I've taken since I painted in college. I started painting again, and have painted ever since. That was in 2003, kind of overlapping the time where I decided to really do it for good.
And I mean, we talked about this a little bit, that it's almost been a secret part of your life, that your life as a musician and a performer is very public, and your visual art has been a more private, creative pursuit. And did you intentionally do that? And why have you kind of decided to bring it out now?
No, I mean, no, I didn't do it intentionally. I did show along the way, and like I said, after school, I thought, well, I'll have a gallery basically so I can show my work. This has always been about me, all along. It always was. I want to be a famous artist. You know, if it was a famous visual artist or a famous musician, it's less that I wanted to be it. It's just that I was born to be it. I mean, do that all wrong. That sounds so funny, but it's like it's true. It's true. I knew it. I knew it from an early age, and I knew that I was talented early on. I knew how to draw. I mean, I knew it. And I don't read very well. I don't pay attention very well. I don't listen very well. But I did draw really well. So that was one of the things that I did well, and I knew that I wanted to, I knew that I could show off with it. So it's just with just like songwriting and getting on stage and acting and with the band, it was something that I could do very comfortably. And I think more naturally though than music. Like I'm much more naturally a visual artist than a musician. Music is something that I really have to work hard to maintain. And then, since I do it so much, I've got to be decent at it. I'm a better songwriter than I am a musician. I hope that's what I've done naturally. But I don't know. I forget what the question was. Just talk about it.
The question was, why you kept it more private.
Oh, yeah.
It's like secret. And now,
Yeah, I just happened to, I just happened to. The last time I showed in 2012, I did a pop-up style show in Charlotte in an abandoned apartment, and it was a great moment and quite a little success. It felt really good, but I cleaned out all the work that was medium sized. It was all gone, and now I realized that I'd been working on all this work. I've been making all this work to show it. That's really the point. I wanted to show it and talk about it, and now it's gone. And it was nice to make that money, but now it's gone. So I thought that wasn't quite right the way I just did that. One weekend it's all gone, and now I'm back, and I have all these large pieces, but I want to show at some point. So I felt like I kind of took a step back, or 2 steps forward. And at that point, I said to myself, I'm not going to show again until it's big. And that's around the time that you guys, and Shani and Soko Gallery were so kind, and the timing is so right to say, you know what, Scott, if it is right for you, we're here for you to do it. It's been really about timing, very natural. And that's something with Rick Rubin, our producer in the music world. He always pushed and promised that if you make good things, if you make things true to you, then everything else is going to fall in place. We don't ever lead with business with this is going to be huge or this is going to be good. It's always lead with this is going to be true to you, and if that is the case, everything else is just going to fall right in place, good or bad.
And then we've also talked about the relationship between your music and your visual art, and kind of where you see crossover, where it kind of parallels each other. And do you feel like you approach writing a song the same way you approach painting a painting? And are there storylines and narratives that you play out in both places?
Let's see. I mean, I go to the studio and I can go in and say I'm going to work on something visual. There's always something to work on. I mean, always. And that's probably where I'll go first. Music or a song will nag at me, and there'll be an idea. As far as subject matter, they're probably one and the same. So probably the songs are the equivalent of what the visuals are. They probably are the exact same. If I was put to test or tested myself to make that song into a painting, Father's First Spring would be some sort of painting of my daughter and something going on with her. It would make sense. A lot of those songs that have to do with some of the family, that's pretty obvious. But I don't know if I know. I really don't. I don't really know.
Well, as an outside observer, I see a relationship between them, and I think we've been talking about this when we've been walking through the gallery, and it's this idea of kind of the truthfulness and the reality of what you're painting. It's your personal relationship, it's your personal life that you're kind of revealing and letting people into, and I think just like with your songs, that's how people connect with you, is that opening up, and in some ways it's also they see themselves in it too.
Totally, that is true. That is a common denominator. There's this. Have y'all heard of Rob Bell? Has anybody heard of Rob Bell? He wrote this book called Love Wins. He commented on the show before we put out this new record. He commented on the show at the Greek in Los Angeles a couple months ago, where, and I've never heard this before, but I've wanted to articulate it. He said, this show, he said, it was an attack on cynicism, which is great. There's an onslaught. And he said, and it was so political. And I was like, oh, okay, hold on, what? He said, it's so political because it brought so many people to one spot, and they weren't raging against anything. They were just there jamming, having a good time, and together. And there's no way they all agree. I think that is a direct reflection of trust in our personal relationships, and everything about our spirituality, our politics, our emotion, and our feeling about everything is tied up in our little personal experiences. And that goes back to just trusting that if I exploit that and show that, I don't have to go searching for inspiration or a story. It's all right there. I say that because I think that has to happen a lot when I'm pulling up something very personal and thinking, who wants a portrait of this? Like, why would anybody want to share space with this? That's a dumb way of thinking anyway. That's not the point. I really have to avoid those thoughts anyway. But I have to just trust that all those little personal relationships are, they're universal. That's the point.
And for those of you who haven't seen the show yet, there's one gallery that's filled with very large-scale portrait paintings. These are monumental paintings. They're larger than life. I would say they're about 8 or 9 feet tall for the most part. Could you talk about why you paint at that scale?
Yeah. So it started that I just wanted to, I love painters like Courbet and Caravaggio, obviously. I love the idea of the underdog. I don't know, I just came up that way. It was blue-collar America is where I'm from, and I connect to it and relate to it. So even in school, I was wanting to paint glorified versions of blue-collar employees and people that I understood and was around a lot. In this case, I was in a space that was very, very large, and that's what I saw. So I saw the walls lined with paintings that were big enough to look right in that space. And I wanted to glorify family members. I wanted to glorify myself. But I wanted to just make it big and larger than life and make it, praise it in a way, celebrate it in a way. At the time, people that weren't really known, that well known, really, that's important to me. As just something to help me justify what I was doing. I also learned that my stroke is much more. It's much more of this. I'm just not I'm not that way with songwriting or music. Like even my management of our business, I have to micromanage and get detailed a lot. However, when it comes to managing songs and music, and that's where I'm so thankful that Seth will come in, because that's not my stroke. It's not like, oh, well, I think there's well, not an infinite, but there's so many ways that things can go right. And I like whenever it just falls in there, I'm good. I don't think there's only one way it's gonna go right, or gonna go well, but there's a lot of ways it can go well. So with that, I'm good, and I'm moving on. That speaks a little bit to what I was saying about my motives starting to get mixed the longer I work on a piece as well. Same thing with music. The longer I spend with something, there's a shelf life where it stops being, there's like this golden moment, and it stops being that. It starts, the motives just starting to get mixed in a way. And so I always know when that ends, and I've torn down a lot of canvases off the stretchers because of it, that I put a lot of time in and just looked at as an exercise or practice in painting, and just leave it at that.
And I think in the show there are 2 paintings side by side, and one you said you spent 9 months on, and the other 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 of the same size, some of the 9-footers, yeah. And it's incredible, the one that was done in 2 weeks, I had more control of the paint and color the whole time. That 2 weeks was, it was fast, and it was in control, and the other one was so painful to make. It was out of control, and I repainted it over and over and over, and it was not fun to paint. It was such a pain. And the motives were very clear, I went in with very clear motives on that's the Toy Pietà one. It was meant to overwork that. Like I went in, I wanted to really work that space, the space on the canvas, so the page. The other one, I sort of just took what I learned and did it fast.
When we started working on this show together, I loved finding out your connections to the museum that already existed. So not only did the Avett brothers play here early on, I think it was 2007, I found out that when you were at ECU, you would come here and spend a lot of time in the galleries, and not in the modern and contemporary galleries, in the old master painting galleries. Can you talk a little bit about what draws you to those paintings?
Yeah. Well, I came to see the Ribera a lot.
The Ribera.
Yeah, I looked at that one a lot because he was, I mean, he was probably as good as Caravaggio, and his handling the flesh was important. Light, chiaroscuro lighting. But also, I think what my relationship really started was when I was way into this painter, Odd Nerdrum, and you had this Odd Nerdrum painting here, and I got in an argument with the security guard here because I was right up on it while I was on it. Well, it did, but while I was on it, it was really dusty. So I was offended when she told me to back up, and I said, "Well, the painting, you know, at my defense, I figured, well, I'll skew this a bit. I'm like, the painting's so dusty. Why don't you clean the painting? What is this? Like, seriously?" But I mean, this is the closest band, this is the closest museum to me, you know, and so it's, at the time it was, and so, well, it still is. Yeah. Well, maybe not. But it's close. And, I mean, I was just studying and seeing those masters, anything that was chiaroscuro lighting, that was what I was going to look at, to see how something pops off the page, from light to dark. That's really what it was all about.
So one thing I'll let you know, the next time you come back to the museum, in the other building, where our permanent collection galleries are, we've hung one of Scott's paintings in the old master painting galleries. It's in a room called the Kunstkammer, and it's the cover from your album, I Am Loving You, and it's the painting that was the cover for the album, and it's hanging next to a 17th century Flemish painting that's very much in the manner and style of the artist that he's looking at, Caravaggio. So it's a really nice pairing that you'll have to come back and look at when that building's open.
Yeah, it worked out perfect.
And then before we open it up for questions, I'd like to kind of go back to this idea that you brought up early on, where you said things like, above all else, I'm an artist, I'm a musician by default, and then just kind of your approach to creativity and how that statement plays into it. This idea of needing to express yourself, I guess, getting out.
Yeah, I think all this has been an exercise for me yesterday and today, and the whole show, just having the show, is an exercise in accepting gratitude from other people, accepting my own greatness, and saying, and by no means meaning that I'm special because of that. Like, it's such an exercise in that, and I'm old enough now that I really have that in check in my mind. But even that statement, like I just made, I'm not even sure what it means. And like trying to talk about all this stuff and make explanations for the work, it's all nonsense. I really just know very little about what any of it means. A lot of it's in hindsight, where I look back and go, oh, I think maybe what I was doing was this or that. It's much better for other people to let me know what I was doing, because really, it's being done to them. It's already done for me. But at this point, I don't think a whole lot about any of that, about what I am first or second. That's at this moment. Now, when I'm writing and thinking about it, I'm sure I'll dissect it again. But it's much more instinctual right now, and I'm very thankful for that. I feel it's a gift and a blessing to be in that place where I can let it be instinctual and make that space and that time for that. be able to say, it's not right today, and I won't do it. That's the discipline that I really follow now, instead of trying to force it to happen.
When we had a conversation like this before at SoCo Gallery, at the end of it, someone said to you, well, if you were forced to choose, what would you pick, being a musician or an artist? And I think that was just not a question to ask, because I think for creative people, it doesn't necessarily matter what form it takes, it's what you're trying to express. It can be a song, it can be a painting, it can be a performance.
Yeah.
That the method and the process is not as important as how it gets out there.
Yeah. I have like a lot of theories come to me. Like this theory about this has been an exercise on ego. I just tested that on you guys. I'm not sure if it works. It's not sussed out or anything like that. But I have another theory that I think, and I just thought about this just started now. Words, just like screens for silk screens, just like brushes, just like our fingers, a piece of cardboard, whatever. These are all, in my mind, if I'm thinking about making work, they're all just a set of brushes. Not to be cliche, but they're just a set of brushes in my work in my studio. And words are no different than that palette there with brushes. It's just another shape. They almost are letters, They almost do make sounds. I mean, it's all so blended and mushed together that I'm just trying to go with it and recognize and be aware of the gift that it is to be able to even do it, and for it to be a problem or not at any moment. That's what